land at Pyongyang Sunan International Airport on a Tuesday. The runway is smooth. The terminal is quiet. A man in a dark uniform checks your passport 3 times, not because he missed something, because he wants you to know he can. You are one of maybe a few hundred foreigners living in North Korea at any given time. Diplomats, aid workers, teachers at Pyongyang University of Science and Technology, a handful of business representatives from Chinese firms. That is the entire list. You are on it now. The air inside the terminal smells like floor wax and something older underneath it. The fluorescent lights hum at a frequency you will never stop noticing. You collect your bags. A government-assigned minder named Mr. Choi is already waiting. He will always already be waiting. You do not go anywhere without Mr. Choi. This is not a suggestion. It is the architecture of your life here. Pyongyang is a city of about 3 million people, and from the window of your assigned vehicle, a white Toyota Land Cruiser with no identifying markings, it looks like a stage set. Wide boulevards, almost no traffic, buildings painted in pastel colors, mint green and pale yellow and dusty pink, standing at perfect intervals along the Taedong River. The sidewalks are swept clean. Children in school uniforms walk in pairs. Nobody is on their phone because almost nobody has a phone that connects to the internet. You pass the Juche Tower, 170 meters tall, built with 30,000 blocks of granite, one for each day of Kim Il-sung's life up to his 70th birthday. The flame on top burns 24 hours a day. You will see it from your apartment window every night. After 3 weeks, you will stop seeing it at all. Your apartment is in the Munsu district, in a building reserved for foreign residents. The floors are polished concrete, covered by thin rugs. The windows face east. There is a television that receives 4 channels, all state broadcasts. There is a landline phone that you are told works for internal calls. The kitchen has a 2-burner gas stove and a refrigerator that keeps things at exactly 41 degrees Fahrenheit. You brought your own coffee. You brought a lot of your own coffee. The first morning, you wake at 5:50 and hear nothing. No traffic, no construction, no dogs. The silence is not peaceful. It is a specific kind of quiet that cities make when they are being managed. Breakfast is whatever you brought or whatever the diplomatic commissary stocks. A Korean won note is technically your local currency, but as a foreigner, you will mostly use euros or Chinese yuan in the designated foreign currency shops. The won in your pocket is decorative. $1 exchanges for roughly 900 official North Korean won, but the real exchange rate on the street, if you ever found the street, is closer to 8,000. You never find the street. Mr. Choi is thorough. Your work begins at 8:30. You are teaching engineering at PUST, Pyongyang University of Science and Technology, the only privately funded university in the country, built largely by evangelical Christian donors from South Korea and the United States who are not permitted to discuss Christianity inside its walls. The students are the sons and daughters of the elite. They speak careful English. They take notes in matching notebooks. They do not ask personal questions, and you learn quickly not to ask them either. On your 3rd day of class, a student named Ri Hyuk raises his hand and asks you why Americans waste so much food. You pause for 2 seconds. You say that is a fair question, and you explain supply chains and consumer behavior and retail incentives. He writes it all down. After class, Mr. Choi mentions that your answer was appropriate. You understand then that every answer is evaluated. The city operates on a rhythm you absorb by week 2. Mornings are for work. Midday is the hour when the state loudspeakers on the street corners broadcast music and announcements. You cannot understand the words, but the tone is always the same, assured and slightly too loud, like someone speaking to a room they believe is listening. By 2 in the afternoon, the light over the Taedong River turns flat and white. By 5, the streets are mostly empty again. By 8, the city goes darker than any capital you have ever been in. Electricity rationing is real and visible, and nobody mentions it. Friday evenings you are sometimes taken, along with other foreign residents, to a restaurant on Okryu Island in the middle of the Taedong. The restaurant is enormous, built to seat hundreds, and usually you are one of maybe 20 people inside. The tables are far apart. The food is decent. Cold naengmyeon noodles with a broth that hits around 40 degrees Fahrenheit when it arrives. Grilled pork, rice, state brand beer called Taedonggang, which is actually drinkable, a lager around 5% alcohol that comes in a green bottle. You drink 2 bottles and feel, briefly, like a person at dinner. Then the drive back across the bridge. The lights of Pyongyang at night, structured and intentional like a diagram of a city rather than the city itself. You sleep well here. You do not know why. Maybe the absence of noise, maybe the absence of choices. By month 2, you have a routine. You know which paths Mr. Choi approves. The walk from your building to the PUST campus, 1.2 miles, takes 18 minutes. You pass a mural of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il on the side of a government building every single morning. The colors are vivid, repainted recently. You stop noticing the faces. You start noticing the brushwork. There are small permissions and small restrictions, and learning the difference is its own daily education. You are allowed to walk the approved path alone, technically, but Mr. Choi appears at the corner by 7:58 every morning regardless. The word alone means something slightly different here. You are allowed to take photographs, but only of approved subjects. The monuments, the children performing at a state event, the skyline from the Juche Tower observation deck. Never photographs of military personnel. Never photographs of regular people struggling with anything. Never photographs from car windows without asking. After you accidentally photograph a pothole on a side street, Mr. Choi asks you to delete it. You delete it. He watches. At the 3-month mark, another foreign resident, a Swedish development worker named Eric, invites you to a gathering at the Diplomatic Quarter near the Munsu Water Park. 12 people in a rented apartment. Someone brought a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label from Beijing. Someone else brought a portable speaker playing music from 2 years ago. The conversation is careful in a specific way that you recognize immediately because you are doing it too. Everyone talks around the edges of what they actually think. You talk about food. You talk about the weather. You talk about where you went on approved tours. You do not talk about what you saw on the approved tours. Eric pours whiskey into a glass and says the water here tastes like somewhere very far from water. You understand what he means, and you do not say so. By month 4, you have developed what the longer-term residents call the 1,000-yard stare of Pyongyang. Not trauma, just recalibration. Your nervous system has adjusted to a city where you never make unplanned eye contact with strangers, where every public space has a specific choreography, where spontaneity is not forbidden exactly, but is simply not available as an option. You miss noise. Specifically, you miss the noise of a city that does not know you are in it. There is a day in late spring, probably late May, temperature somewhere around 68 degrees Fahrenheit, when you are taken on an approved excursion to Myohyang Mountain, about 100 miles north of Pyongyang. The International Friendship Exhibition is there, a vast complex of rooms inside the mountain, climate-controlled. Corridors lined with gifts given to the Kim family by foreign leaders and dignitaries over the decades. You walk past a bulletproof limousine from Stalin, a silver dinner set from Fidel Castro, a basketball signed by Michael Jordan from Madeleine Albright's visit in 2000. You stand in front of the basketball for a long time. It is real. The signature is real. You are standing inside a mountain in North Korea, looking at Michael Jordan's signature, and it is the most normal object you have seen in 4 months. The guide speaks in a tone of careful reverence. Mr. Choi translates selectively. You nod at the appropriate moments. Outside, the mountain air smells like pine and cold soil, and for exactly 4 minutes while the group walks between buildings, you breathe without thinking about where you are. Those 4 minutes will stay with you longer than most of what comes after. Month 5 brings a small escalation. You are invited, along with 3 other foreign educators, to attend a mass performance at the Rungrado Mayday Stadium, the largest stadium in the world by seating capacity, 114,000 seats, arranged in a perfect bowl of concrete and intention. The mass games. Tens of thousands of students trained for months, each one holding a colored card that becomes part of a human pixel display on one side of the stadium. The images shift, landscapes, slogans, portraits. The effect is technically staggering. You watch a mountain range assemble and dissolve in 3 seconds, made of the arms and cards and trained obedience of 20,000 children. The sound in the stadium is compressed music and rhythmic percussion, and something under it all that you cannot name. You sit in the designated foreign guest section, 3 rows from the front, a seat that costs roughly $300 for a 1-hour performance. The woman next to you, a journalist from Germany on an approved media visa, whispers that she has been to North Korea 6 times, and the mass games never gets easier to watch. You ask her what she means. She says you are watching something that is both beautiful and unthinkable at the same time, and your brain cannot hold both at once. She is correct. Month 6 is when the food situation becomes more visible. Not to you directly. You shop at the Kwangbok Area Shopping Center, a department store for Pyongyang's upper class and foreign residents, stocked with imported goods, Chinese instant noodles, bottled water, Korean snacks, packaged cookies from brands you do not recognize. You are not hungry. But you begin to notice the difference between Pyongyang and what you glimpse from the Land Cruiser on approved drives outside the capital. A town 60 miles south where the market stalls have less, where the faces are harder and more tired, where the children are shorter. Average height for a North Korean adult male is around 5 feet 4 inches, roughly 3 inches shorter than the South Korean average, and nutritional deficiency across generations is one of the reasons. You see a man carrying a 50-pound sack of grain on a bicycle, and it takes both him and another man to keep the bike upright, and they do not look at your car when it passes. Mr. Choi is looking straight ahead. You look straight ahead too. Month 7 brings a new student, a young man who has been absent for 2 weeks. He comes back with a different quality of quietness, not the careful quiet of the other students. A pressed-down quiet, like something corked. He submits his engineering assignment on time. His work is excellent. You write good technical reasoning in the margin. He does not look at the comment. You do not ask what happened during those 2 weeks. You have learned that this is one of the things you do not ask. There is a phrase the longer-term foreign residents use among themselves, the 3 stages. The first stage is vigilance, when everything feels monitored and you perform constant small calculations about behavior. The second stage is adaptation, when the calculations become automatic and the monitoring just becomes ambient, like background radiation. The third stage has no clean name. It is the stage where you realize you have stopped finding anything unusual about any of this. That is the stage that scares you. By month 8, you are in stage 2, pushing toward 3. The diplomats in the foreign quarter throw a small event for someone's birthday. 40 years old, a British embassy staffer named Claire. Someone bakes a cake with ingredients they ordered through the diplomatic pouch from Beijing. The apartment is crowded with 20 people. Someone plays music on a Bluetooth speaker. You drink beer from the Taedong Gang brand, and you almost feel like you are at a party. Claire says she has been here 3 years, and she is leaving in 2 months, and she does not know how she will handle the noise of London. You ask if she means she will miss the quiet. She looks at her glass and says no. She means she has forgotten how to exist without someone implicitly watching. You sit with that sentence for the rest of the evening. Month 9. Autumn. The Taedong River reflects a gray sky. The leaves on the trees along Quezon Street turn the same orange they would turn anywhere. In this small biological democracy, the fact that the leaves here behave like all other leaves strikes you as unexpectedly moving. You are running out of things you brought from home. Your last bag of Ethiopian dark roast ran out in week 34. You have been drinking Chinese instant coffee since then. 3-in-1 packets, 200 milliliters of hot water, 12 grams of powder that turns the water brown and gives it a sweetness that is slightly wrong. You drink it anyway, every morning, looking east out the window at the Juche Tower flame. Your students are preparing for national examinations. The pressure in the classroom is specific and visible. These students have everything to gain, and, in a system this total, everything to lose. One afternoon, a student stays after class and asks you a question about thermodynamic cycles. The question is technically good. You spend 20 minutes at the whiteboard walking through the Carnot cycle, entropy, efficiency limits. He understands immediately. He asks a follow-up question that is even better. For those 20 minutes, you are just a teacher, and he is just a student, and the room is just a room. Then he puts his notebook away and says thank you, in the careful way that means goodbye for now, and possibly forever. You watch him walk down the corridor. You erase the whiteboard. Month 10 brings your first health concern, a cough that will not leave. You sleep 9 hours and wake tired. The clinic available to foreign residents is in the diplomatic quarter, staffed by a Chinese doctor who visits twice a week. She checks your lungs and says the air quality in Pyongyang is poor, particularly in autumn when coal heating begins. She is not wrong. The air in October sits at a density you can taste. Particulate matter, coal smoke, the specific heaviness of a city heating itself with 19th century technology in the 21st century. She gives you a box of Chinese brand antihistamines and tells you to drink more water. You drink more water. The cough stays for 3 weeks, then leaves. Month 11. You are told you will be permitted, as a special arrangement, to visit Kaesong, the city near the border with South Korea, about 100 miles south of Pyongyang. The drive takes 2.5 hours. You pass through checkpoints, where soldiers check documents with a focus that has nothing casual about it. The road narrows. The landscape opens. Rice paddies in winter brown. Villages of low buildings behind walls. A school where children are playing in the yard, and one of them sees the Toyota and stops moving until the car is gone. Kaesong itself is quieter than Pyongyang, older. The Koryo dynasty ruins sit at the edge of town. Limestone walls and stone foundations from the 1000s, partially restored, swept clean by a groundskeeper who does not look up as you walk through. The guide explains the history in a framing that centers the current state as the heir to this ancient Korean unity. You listen. You take the approved photographs. On the drive back, somewhere between mile 40 and mile 50, the sky drops a thin, cold rain, and the flat fields on both sides of the road go silver, and the whole landscape looks like a photograph developed in the wrong chemical. You stare out the window for a long time. Mr. Choi has fallen asleep in the front seat. This is the only time in 11 months you have seen him sleep. Month 12. Your assignment ends in 30 days. The university holds a small ceremony. Your students present you with a folder containing handwritten notes, each one formal and brief and signed with full names. The student who asked the thermodynamics question after class writes one sentence. He writes, "Your lessons were clear and I will remember them." You fold the paper twice and put it in your jacket pocket. You begin packing. It takes 2 days to pack everything you own in this country, because you own very little here. The apartment was furnished. The utilities were managed. The car was driven. Your personal possessions fill 2 suitcases and a duffel bag, which is roughly what you arrived with. On your second to last evening, you walk the approved path from your building to the river, 1.4 miles. The Taedong is low in December. The Juche Tower flame reflects in the water in a long orange stripe. The temperature is 22 degrees Fahrenheit, and your breath makes small clouds that dissolve before they travel 3 feet. The city is quiet in the way it is always quiet. Managed and intentional and present. 3 women in coats walk past without looking at you. A bicycle with no lights moves through an intersection. A speaker somewhere plays something slow and instrumental that you do not recognize. You stand at the railing above the river for approximately 12 minutes. You do not take a photograph. On your last morning, Mr. Choi arrives at 7:58. Your bags are already in the lobby. He picks up the duffel without being asked. You walk out of the building, and the air is sharp and bright and cold, and the city is already moving in its prescribed way. At Sunan Airport, the departure process is thorough. Your bags are checked carefully. Your camera card is reviewed. Your notebooks are looked at, not read, just measured by weight and number of filled pages. You surrender a form declaring that you are not removing any North Korean currency, which you are not, and that you have not engaged in unauthorized recording, which is technically true in the sense that everything you recorded was approved. The last checkpoint is a small booth, where a young soldier in a green uniform checks your passport one final time. He stamps it. He does not look up. You pick up your passport and walk through the door. The gate area has 12 plastic chairs and a vending machine that does not work. 3 other passengers wait in silence. The flight to Beijing is 1 hour and 50 minutes on Air Koryo,